So 2024 is almost over, and I want to use this opportunity to look back at the year and pick out my favorite bikes. And we're not just going to be covering standard e-bikes. We're going to be mixing in even some seated scooters, mini motos, just the whole shebang. We're going to begin on the affordable side of the price range and move up from there. I'll leave relative links below in the video description, but none of this is sponsored. It's just my honest opinion. So I hope you guys enjoy. If you do, help me out, leave a like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. Greatly appreciated. And let's get right into this. So beginning with budget, for less than $1,000, I think one of these folding bikes is one of the best values you can get. This one in particular, I reviewed it a couple months ago. It's the Jason X Hunter. But this kind of bike is sold by a lot of different companies, all with very similar specifications. We're talking a regular Bafang 750 watt motor, a 48 volt battery, somewhere between like 10 and 18 amp hours of capacity. You get nice fat tires, even full suspension in a lot of cases. And the price tag is affordable. This one is 950 bucks, and you can find them even cheaper if you want. But if you want something more fun, that's not that much more expensive, take a look at this bike. You can buy it off of Amazon for $1,300, and it's essentially the poor man's Sur-Ron. The battery is only 48 volts, 21 amp hours, but the motor is still running 2 kilowatts, and the maximum speed is rated at the mid 30 mile an hour range. Now, being that this is an Emoto, you don't have pedals like a traditional e-bike, but in my opinion, the handling and the riding experience of e-motos is often way more enjoyable. So this offers a much different riding experience that I think most people prefer at a very attractive price point. Again, it's essentially the poor man's Sur-Ron. Okay, now the next major level above this is like the $2,000 price range. And here I have 3 fantastic options that on the spec sheet are all very similar, but they come in very different form factors. The first one I want to start with is the Roadrunner. This is the most expensive. It's $2,700, but you do get dual 2,000 watt hub motors, a 60 volt battery, 30 amp hours capacity, and a top speed of 50 miles per hour. And it all comes in a very small, I think it's technically like a seated electric scooter. It does have full suspension, and this thing has gained a lot of popularity this past year. And I can see why. It's a very cool, high performance, unique little thing. But if this form factor is not doing it for you, and you want a more traditional bike, then I think the Wired Freedom is a great analog, because that is also running at 60 volts. And the new 2024 model of this bike has a huge 35 amp hour capacity. Even the power, it's pretty close at 3.2 kilowatts, but you get a traditional bike frame with pedals and all that. But the thing that's always shocked me about the Wired Freedom is you get all this for just 2,000 bucks before shipping and taxes. But still, that's a fantastic deal if you're okay with a regular bike that's on the larger side. But yet another great option here is the eBox 2.0 V2. This is a mini Emoto, so essentially like a smaller Sur-Ron with great specs and price tag. So again, 60 volts. I think that's a good voltage for around the $2,000 price tag. It's only 18.5 amp hours capacity, so the lowest on this list. But the motor, it's mid-drive, and we're talking 2 kilowatts here. I would also say the suspension on this bike, because it's an Emoto frame, is the best out of the 3 mentioned so far. And it's also the cheapest, sub $2,000. I probably should mention that you could buy the eBox 3.0. That has a 72 volt, 60 amp hour battery, but it's kind of marketed at a different group of people, more so to the DIY crowd, because it doesn't come with a motor or controller. So it's kind of like comparing apples to oranges. But just so you know, there is a 72 volt eBox option if this bike is appealing to you. Okay, now if you wanted to spend a little bit more money and see what's out there, I think for $3,000, the bike I'm on right now, the new Mantis X, is clearly the best option. This bike has been by far my favorite bike I've ever owned, because you get a 72 volt, 30 amp hour battery, great suspension. Suspension on this bike is phenomenal. But even aside from all that, one of my favorite things about this bike is just the ergonomics. You can tell that somebody designed this that knew what they were doing. The only thing is, this bike is an Emoto, so it doesn't have pedals. So if you wanted something that had a comparable amount of power that was a legit e-bike, then I think the newly announced Edwired Predator is that bike. So it has a dual motor configuration, which I think is the only way to come close to the power of a mid-drive like the Mantis X that I'm on. One hub motor is just not going to cut it, so here we have two, and the combined power is 6 kilowatts. Very similar to the 6.5 this bike is rated for. The only thing is that bike is still at 60 volts, 35 amp hours, and the price tag, it's a comparable $3,200. So that's my list. Looking back at 2024, those are my favorite bikes. You can see we have a diverse cast of bikes. Some are traditional e-bikes, some are seated scooters, others are mini Emotos. And I think they all offer a unique and great value. Now, if you guys disagree, let me know in the comments what bikes you think are the best of this year. Regardless, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, like, subscribe, always greatly appreciated. I'll leave those relative links of the things I've mentioned below the video. And again, nothing here was sponsored. With all that said, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.